teacher talking sports, what it does, what it do, how we live in. Sports free agency can be an inexact science, in the NFL included. Sometimes free agent signings pan out, sometimes they don't. Well, the website Pro Football Focus attempted to look at the best and worst free agent signings in 2022. So they give their list of the five best and five worst. So let's take a look at it. They start with the five best free agent signings of the 2022 offseason. Geno Smith, just $3.5 million for the season, only $500,000 total guaranteed. Of course, Geno Smith never even looked like an adequate starter, but easily had his best season, leading the league in completion percentage, throwing for 30 touchdown passes. He is one of three finalists for the Comeback Player of the Year. Second, Jacoby Brissett, same 1 year, $4.65 million. Of course, Deshaun Watson was suspended for the first 11 games of the season, and Brissett performed more than adequately in his time while Watson was not able to play, completing 64% of his passes, 2,608 yards, 12 touchdowns, 88.9 rating, and a 60.1 QBR. Could be said that he actually performed better than Watson when Watson came back. Hassan Reddick, we know edge rushers get paid a boatload of money, and Reddick was coming off two straight seasons in which he reached double-digit sack totals, a combined 23 and a half. But the Eagles absolutely killed it this offseason, and Reddick was one of the main reasons. He had 16 sacks on the season. After not getting a sack in his first two games, he had at least half a sack in 13 of his next 15. Also tied for the league lead with 5 forced fumbles on the year, was a second team All-Pro. Stephon Gilmore, the Colts were not good this season, but don't necessarily blame Gilmore for all of that. Five-time Pro Bowler, former Defensive Player of the Year in 2019, did intercept 2 passes this past season and did well for the Colts, although, of course, the team didn't do well. And Zadarius Smith of the Minnesota Vikings, another edge rusher. For Smith, he was fabulous to begin the season, but in his final 8 games, including the playoff game against the Giants, he totaled half a sack. Still had 9.5 sacks before that, so 10 on the season. But due to that slow ending, I don't know if I would have included him on here. The 5 worst free agent signings of the 2022 offseason, leading off with Chandler Jones, one of the great pass rushers of the 2010s. Jones did have a very memorable moment when he ran over Mac Jones to the end zone on that lateral that made 0 sense, but on the season had just 4.5 sacks, and 3 of them came in a game against the Chargers. Definitely did not pan out. Cedric Wilson, I forgot how much the Dolphins signed Cedric Wilson for. After a pretty good season with the Cowboys, 45 catches and 6 touchdowns in 2021. In 15 games this past season, Wilson had 12 catches for 136 yards, the next to nothing on the year. J.C. Jackson, they're not just including him because he got hurt. He played in just 5 games. Really wasn't performing up to standards prior to that. Was one of the most highly sought after free agents. But as we see often, Bill Belichick lets defensive guys go for a reason, and J.C. Jackson was not performing very well before he got injured. Next, we have Folorunshio Fatukasi, Jacksonville Jaguars, 3 years, $30 million, $20 million guaranteed. Excellent run stopper in his time with the Jets, with the Jaguars. Didn't end up doing much. Had about half the amount of tackles he had in the previous 2 seasons with the Jets. And as it mentions in this article, his 9 missed tackles were the 3rd most among interior defenders, and he had a 29% rate of missed tackles. And last, let's end with Chase Edmonds, the running back for the Dolphins, who didn't end the season with the Dolphins. Began the season as the starter, but that didn't last long as Raheem Mostert came aboard. Then they traded For Jeff Wilson, Edmonds ended up going to the Broncos in his little time with Miami. He had 42 carries for just 120 yards over 8 games. So there are Pro Football Focus's 5 best and 5 worst free agent signings of the offseason. Who was I surprised not to see? Now, I don't know if they didn't include James Bradbury because he was a cap casualty, so he didn't start the offseason as a free agent, but the Eagles did sign him for just 1 year, 7.25 million. He was one of the top handful of cornerbacks this past season. Even Bobby Wagner, just like Stephon Gilmore, his team did not perform well. The Rams were not good at all, but Bobby Wagner definitely had a great season for the Rams. Um, Signed 5 years, 50 million, 20 million guaranteed. Evan Ingram was also a nice signing, 1 year, 9 million, and had his best season this past year for the Jaguars. Some of the worst, I was really surprised. I'm not sure why they didn't include Allen Robinson. Los Angeles Rams signed 3 years, 46.5 million, 30.75 million guaranteed. Robinson was a major disappointment for the Rams, even when Cooper Kupp got hurt, still wasn't producing, and then he ended up missing most of the last few handful games of the season. And Jameis Winston, 2 years, 28 million, 21 million guaranteed, got hurt, didn't get his job back as Andy Dalton held him off for the rest of the season. So, if he couldn't outperform Andy Dalton and get his starting job back, definitely was not exactly a great signing. But what do you guys think? Was there someone not mentioned by PFF for best or worst free agent signing, or someone I didn't include? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend to subscribe. Like the video, share the video, hit the bell for notifications. I'm out.